So in fall of 2015, my old friend Shen told me that I should write about the experience of being an Asian American man. We had just spent the last couple hours sitting in Union Square Park. He was telling me about his treatment as a medical resident at Albert Einstein Hospital. He's also getting back onto the dating scene after getting out of a long-term relationship and being an Asian guy in New York City and how that experience was going. We commiserated, we talked about the questions, the confusions, the absurdities that happened, and he reflected on the fact that this kind of conversation, this kind of discussion wasn't really happening in mainstream media. I mean, think about it. When's the last time you've read a personal essay or narrative that was written by an Asian guy? I can't think of one. I'm a startup founder. I'm not a journalist or reporter, but I do some writing, mostly around business and technology topics. But Shen felt that I would be someone who could speak to some of the stories and experiences that we were talking about. I could hear it, the urgency in his voice. And so I knew what I had to do. I stayed in my comfort zone and put together a survey to collect data about Asian Americans. Now, I had good intentions. My goal was to make sure that I was writing about things that mattered to people, that I wasn't talking about something that no one else cared about or no one else was feeling. And so I put a little Google form together and posted it on social media. I would have been happy if 30 people took the survey. And in 3 weeks, 300 responses came in. My survey had struck a chord. Many Asian men in this country feel unseen, unheard, ignored. And when they found my survey and saw the questions that were directly pertaining to their life and their experiences, they jumped on it. And so over the last couple years, I've heard from over 1,000 Asian men talking about their experiences with relationships, with media representation, with their careers, with parenting. And my original plan was to get up here and do a PowerPoint with some charts, and some graphs, and all of those things. But then I realized that this wasn't the right time or place for that. You can go on our website, theasianamericanman.com. I've posted dozens and dozens of charts, and you can look at all the data for yourself at your own leisure. Tonight is a chance to talk about the stories behind the statistics. So, if you talk to any Asian guy about how their ethnicity impacts their life, and they trust you, or they're sufficiently liquored up, dating is going to come into the conversation. We generally understand that Asian men hold the lowest rung of the totem pole when it comes to dating in the United States. OkCupid data shows that Asian men have the lowest response rates in terms of messages compared to white men, black men, or Latino men. And our research found this as well. The Asian not Asian guys came up there and did that little clip about how he heard from someone saying, "Oh, I don't date Asian guys." Well, our study found that over nearly 2/3 of Asian men have heard someone say, "I don't date Asian guys," to them or in their presence. And 1 in 5 Asian men have heard that statement said to them more than 6 times. It is hard to get a more clear indication that you are not wanted than something like that. And this pain is somewhat magnified by our own understanding of the differences that Asian women hold in our society. That same OkCupid data shows that Asian women have some of the higher response rates compared to other groups. And that's not to take away from the misogyny and the exoticization and the fetishization that happens to Asian women. That is not okay and needs to end. But it's certainly a dislocating experience to have and to hold. I think it took me some time for me to develop my confidence as an Asian guy when it comes to dating. I remember in college, I had broken up with my first girlfriend. She was Asian, And I was on the gymnastics team. And one of my white teammates said to me, he was trying to cheer me up, he said, "Shen, you're a good-looking guy. You should be cleaning up with Asian girls on campus." And it's like, wow, you were able to say something racist and sexist in like 2 seconds. It's kind of amazing. And, I don't think he was meaning to be hurtful, but his implication was that as a white man, I can date whoever I want, but as an Asian guy, you should be seeking, this is the top of where you can go. And so, later that semester, when I started dating a white girl, I felt like hot shit. Okay? She was French, she was an athlete as well, and she was an East Asian Studies major. Now, I think that our connection was real. And I cared about her, and I think she cared about me. But I realized, upon reflection, that I was playing into this idea that if I was dating someone who was white, that it was better, that this was an achievement, that I was playing on hard mode. And that was obviously a mistake, and it's sort of something that I had internalized, and I think that many of us have internalized. I'm getting married in April. And my fiance, who is half Thai and half Indonesian, shared a similar story to me. She grew up thinking that she should be attracted to a white guy and that she shouldn't be attracted to an Asian guy. And she found herself really confused when she was actually feeling attraction to Asian men and had to kind of diagnose that, like what was going on? What am I feeling right now? I thought that this was supposed to happen. And it wasn't that anyone had explicitly told her this, she had just received so many different messages in her life to get here. And so I'm just really grateful that both of us had the self-awareness to recognize these internal scripts and to rewrite them. And I think this is all changing slowly. Shows like Kim's Convenience and, of course, the smash success of Crazy Rich Asians are portraying Asian men as potential romantic partners. But it is going to take time. One of the other things we talked about were role models. And so that was the guy, I forget your name now, but talking about fashion. And so we asked this question directly to Asian guys. We said, who is the Asian American man you most admire? Top 3 results. 1, I don't know. I can't think of anybody. No one comes to mind. Number 2, a male relative. My dad, my grandfather, my uncle, my brother. Number 3, the first named person on this list. Bruce Lee. By a large margin. Martial arts legend, Hollywood star, died young. A lot of reasons, right, why, he would be special and in people's minds. But it's been 46 years. 46 years, almost half a century. Jim Morrison of The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, the guitarist, also very successful entertainers, a lot of fame, died young in the 70s. But does anybody in this room think that if we asked white guys or black guys who they most admired, that either of the two of them would be anywhere near the top of the list? Not a chance. And so there's something going on that causes us to have this circumstance. I mean, I think about my own life. I have a great deal of admiration for my father, who came to this country when he was 36 years old, who had a partial scholarship and enough money to pay for 1 month's rent in his pocket. And him and my mother worked together and worked very hard to make our family, our family's lives possible in this country. And it's the typical immigrant story. But I can't think of anybody obviously big, well-known, well-respected that I could point to and say, yeah, that's an Asian man that everyone should respect and know. And this is changing too, right? Henry Golding was on the cover of GQ magazine. Hassan Minhaj is doing some of the most edgy and hilarious political commentary on TV or the internet. And Jeremy Lin just got signed to the Raptors, and if he can stay healthy, maybe get some of that Linsanity magic back again. So I think back to the question that, the request that my friend Shen made of me. And I realized I was ducking his request to write about the experience because I was afraid. I was afraid of putting myself out there and having no one else to back me up. I was afraid of being wrong. I was afraid of nobody caring. And so I stayed with the safety of numbers and of the group. But if we want this culture, this society, this country to care about us, to listen to us, to believe in us, we have to believe in ourselves. It's not unmanly to talk about your feelings. It's manly to recognize and be brave enough to share them. And so, with the Asian American Man study, I've started to find my courage to speak my truth. And I hope you all find the opportunity to share yours. Thank you.